You let me know when you're ready, Alvin. The calculator's on my screen.
Okay. All right. I am ready. So let me go ahead and start back with okay. So, hi, we are Houseman TV back in the building. We are back with our second interview with Andy. We ran over time the last interview. We never got to what we actually wanted to talk to Andy about, which is his business model of buying and creating notes with mobile homes. And it's actually a not a very complicated financial creative financing strategy that many of you can use to apply to some of the deals that you're looking for, especially with the COVID thing going on now. That with all the government different things going on and stuff like that, you're going to need to be a creative finance type of person to be able to put together some of these deals. But anyway, without further ado, Mr. Andy, how are you
Hi.
today, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Glad to be back again.
All right, good, good. Now, Andy, you had a pretty interesting morning. You had an inspection at one
Oh
of your
yeah.
properties.
For a man who does everything he can to do as little as possible, I sure seem to stay busy.
Is that right? You
Yeah.
so even as a guy who drives around in a Ferrari all day,
Yeah.
you still find yourself you still find yourself in situations where you're doing average guy stuff, right?
I'm an average guy, so I'm always doing average guy stuff. That's for
Uh,
sure.
okay, and we appreciate you for being the average guy you are, especially your beat up old red truck that you actually don't even. Oh no, you do own that truck. Is that
I
right?
own the white one. I don't own the red one.
Okay, gotcha, gotcha. But I've seen the red one. So, but anyway, we'll get into that later on about why you actually don't own that truck,
Okay.
which is why you actually don't own property. But
That'll
anyway,
be
so
number
we'll,
three.
yeah, that'll be exactly. It might at this rate, it might be number five. So let me go ahead and get get to the point. Okay, so real
Yeah, we
quick,
got part
Andy.
three coming next week.
Right. And that's our buddy Tommy, technical genius Tommy. And Tommy will be asking questions as we go along, just like I will. Tommy's actually out on the hustle right now, so just to express to all you people out there,
This
the
hustle is stressful.
this is about making money. So anything that we can do to teach you about making money, we're gonna do it. So Tommy's door dashing while he's technical producing. So real quick, we wanted to ask you this question though, Andy. We were talking about the Ferrari the other day, and I myself, I went to a Pac-10 school. I went to Arizona, and at Arizona we're really good at basketball and somewhat good at football. And so, for example, we've had a lot of, people like Steve Kerr went to our school. I could name quite a few people. Rob Gronkowski went to our school. So, it would be typical that at the end of every spring semester, that I would go to the barber shop and I would see a brand new Mercedes or a brand new BMW because one of our athletes has just gotten a nice fat NBA contract. So I was thinking, let me ask Andy the question: like, if you knew somebody that had an NBA contract or an NFL contract, and we're talking like, we could be talking anywhere from, you know 6 million to 600,000.
Right.
What would you recommend that they do with that money instead of spending it on a brand new Mercedes or a brand new BMW? Like, how could they, not only help themselves, but help their family and help their friends with that money instead of spending it on a car?
Well, I think the first thing that I would do is teach them the value of $100. And
Okay.
to do that, I would take out my financial calculator and let me get my screen share going here.
Okay. Now, while you're doing that, Andy, I wanna ask you this question because you said you want to teach people the value of $100, but I'm thinking like the average person might be thinking, "Hey, Andy, look, man, I just graduated from college. I took a finance class. I took business classes. I know the value of $100.
Is that
Dog, I got to
is that a
make
There
a
are
question I can
hundred
people.
answer?
dollars every week. What are you talking about?
So let's say that they're 24, right? And they're going to be 40 years before they retire theoretically. So
Let
on our
let's
financial, go
well
ahead.
let's actually just say like the average athlete these days. I mean, they're coming out at anywhere from 20 years old to 22 years old. Let's say.
Well, let's
Yeah.
just say they got 40 years before they're going to stop sweating. Is that a
Okay.
fair guess? So,
Okay. Yeah.
so we go to our financial calculator. We put 480 months in for in,
Okay.
and they're young and aggressive. So let's say they can earn 12% on their money. That's really not hard to do if you get educated.
Okay.
So if they have $100 today, we put that on our PV, and we don't put any other money in. How much is that $100 worth when they're 64 years old? Any guesses?
Let me see. 40 years, $100 a month, 12%.
No, $100 one time. That $100 they blew buying too much beer in the bar on Friday night.
Say just $100 at 12% for 40 years.
Today, what's that worth to you?
Let me think. With $4,000, 5,000.
How about you, Tommy?
Somewhere. Well, you said $100 at 12% for 40 years.
Yep. Never add another penny. Just let it grow.
Okay. Is that a month or every year?
One time. $100, 12% a year. 1% a month.
Okay.
Actually, I might need to change my answer.
Yeah, your answer is
I'm thinking more like maybe 20,000, 25,000, maybe.
Tommy, you got a number?
not yet because I'm trying to have to do the math.
Just go for it, Tommy.
$11,864.
Okay.
Now, what do you pay for a Ferrari?
Ferrari.
Brand new Mercedes. What's that run you? About 100 grand?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
I mean, you got to get the top of the line model if you're an NFL nut, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So
definitely. 150. Easy.
Well, let's
150.
go
top
for the
of the line?
$100,000 model because Alvin got out of college a ways back.
Yeah. So
That car that starts depreciating the minute it crosses the curb
Once they get out the parking lot.
is $11,864,000.
okay.
And if you can explain that to that youngster, that buying that Ferrari just cost him almost $12 million when he's old. That's the most important lesson that needs to be taught to these people that get a lump of cash at the beginning of their life.
Wow. Okay.
What's the average play career of an NFL player? I'm not a sports guy.
On the average, it's about 5 years, 5 to 6 years, I think they say.
So if
Hey,
they're
Tommy,
getting six,
can you
Yeah.
mute your can you? Thanks.
yeah, I did. So he's got 5 or 6 years to sock away enough money to live comfortably for the rest of his life. Unfortunately, they believe they're going to keep earning that money for the rest of their life, and they're not. That's why most of them are bankrupt before they're 35 years old. And if it wasn't for the NFL retirement that they get when they're old and can't work anymore, they would be on the streets or selling used cars in a parking lot somewhere.
Right.
So that's the answer. That's what I would say to any youngster that was coming into a bunch of cash. Learn how to use your financial calculator and ask yourself what the value of a dollar is worth that you spend today instead of waiting until tomorrow. Invest it today and don't spend it today.
Okay. So that actually is a good segue into what I wanted to talk to you about today, which is what you actually do as an investor, like what your business model actually is and how you find your deals. And so this would be, one of the ways that I would think that as an athlete, that somebody could, invest money in this way or a number of different ways. And that's why we're here, just to suggest all the different ways that people could be investing their money. But more than anything, it's about getting educated on what it is we don't get from formal education. So Andy, so you do mobile homes, and then we talked about it the other day that you have a class that you teach, which I was a student of, to talk about how the business model works, and you teach the financial calculator. And just go ahead and get into that, and if you don't mind sharing some of that info with us.
So let's talk about deals that anybody can do today in their own home, in their neighborhood. And let's share screen again. Here we go. Except I need to get the slideshow to start. There we go. Does that look good on your end?
It looks great.
All right. Now let's see what moves it. There it goes. Okay. So we're going to skip over wholesaling. I'm sure you're going to have a class on it.
Yeah, we'll cover that in another video.
So this is back to what we were just talking about with the Ferrari.
Okay.
How much does a $5 daily expense cost you? That $5 you blow at Starbucks every day. And nowadays it's more like $10 at Starbucks, I guess. Not that I know. I buy my coffee at AM PM if I don't percolate it at home. So $5 a day times 30 days in the year is $150 a month, or $1,800 a year. That's not too expensive a habit, is it?
Oh, well,
it is.
If you're making the 6 figures a year, you figure I'm good.
But see, people don't realize what that really costs. So $1,800 in a Roth IRA invested in tax lien certificates at 15% for 30 years turns into how much money?
More than 11 million.
Yeah, well, probably not much more than $30,000 or something.
$157,573 if you just did it for 1 year and stopped.
$1,800 at 15% for 30 years. If I just took $1,800, 1 year's worth of Starbucks, and bought a tax lien certificate and kept on doing that for the next 30 years, $1,800 is going to turn into $157,000.
That's right.
Okay.
$1,800. Now, what if you gave it up for the rest of your life? That's $1 million worth of coffee.
Okay.
So that's the reality of those little habits, those little expenses we have that we don't think anything of, which is why tracking your expenses is important. And that's the power of compounding interest.
Gotcha.
Why is that less than the $100 method at 12%?
Well, it's 10 years less time. How do I back this thing up? So we're only doing 30 years at 15%. The one we did earlier was 40 years at 12. That extra 25% of time adds up a lot. So this just assumes you're only going to do it for 30 years. If you're going to do it for 40 or 50 years, it'll double this again easily. Remember, at 15%, what's 72 divided by 15?
About 5 or less than 5.
Handy dandy calculator here.
4.7 something.
4.5 years. So at 15%, every 4.5 years, you double what you have. So just like the old Chinese proverb about the wise man who gave the great solution to the king, and the king said, "How can I reward you?" And he said, just take the chessboard, and in the top left corner, put 1 grain of rice. And then tomorrow, double that and put 2 grains of rice on the next square. And then the day after that, double that. Before you run out of squares on the chessboard, you've bankrupted the entire rice supply of the world. The power of compounding.
Okay.
Okay. I'm no mathematician. Well, I got one thing to say.
Well, what's that?
If you double what you make every 4.5 years and you was at $1 million at 30, you only have another 10 years. So you only double it 2 more times, which will put you at 4 million, not more than 11.
Wait a minute. This is putting it in. This is not just your growth. This is compounding plus putting that 1,800 a year in continually. That gets you the $1 million. That's the difference between the 157, which is one time. 30 years at 1,800 for 30 years gives you 157. And then if you keep putting it in, that 1,800 a year for 30 years and make it grow at 15%, that gets you up to the $1 million.
Okay.
After the 30 year, not the year?
Say that again?
And that's after 30 years, you'll be at $1 million, right?
You'll be at $1 million after 30 years of giving up coffee. At least expensive coffee.
Right. So basically, somebody starts doing this at, say, 25, 30 years from that is going to be 55, the retirement age, which is where most people figure that they should be retiring at, right? But we'll
55 or 65
about
or 75.
Well, you know, and it honestly is all relative at this point, because I mean, you know, who wouldn't want to retire at 35? But
everybody asks me when I'm going to retire. I keep telling them I got to get a job first.
Well, see, you can't retire if you don't have a job, right?
I know it. It's the
So,
rules.
you know,
true.
and that's you know, my mom had actually asked me about putting money away for my kids and their retirement, and I said, well, Mom, if you would really like to help them, then help them find some mobile homes, because the only retirement that they would really need is to just basically take the money that they do have and invest it in some mobile deals, and then that'll be their retirement. So
Absolutely. Especially if they use their Roth to do it.
Right, exactly, which is another thing that we have to discuss. But it's basically it's the fact that you get into the nuts and bolts of how the compounding of interest and how the use of interest applies to the business that you do. So can you get into
we'll get there. We got to make them interested in compound interest and why it's a great thing.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, I'm always interested in interest.
There you go.
Is that a good joke?
So I presume if you're watching this conference call, you can scare up $5,000, right?
You would have to assume.
We'll assume that.
Yes.
Now, who here has heard of Lonnie Scruggs? Not Earl Scruggs. He plays a banjo. He's the best banjo player was on the planet for a long, long time. Earl Scruggs. He wrote this book called Deals on Wheels. It's how to buy, sell, and finance used mobile homes for big profits and cash flow. Cash flow is what buys your groceries.
Okay.
So here's the disclaimer. It works where I am. It works for me. I've done it. You might need to add a 0 to every number I'm going to use in this presentation based on where you live. If you do, understand that that's where you live and that's the way the numbers work. And Lord knows with the government printing money like it's going out of style, I've been expecting inflation for 20 years. We may actually get it finally. Now, who here can find a mobile home park?
I can.
What type of people live in mobile home parks?
Regular people.
What happens to old people? What happens more to old people than to young people?
Death.
Oh, I like that. You understand the next slide.
I was actually gonna say mall walking, but that's okay. All right.
Clocking out. They're
There you
getting
go.
at their job.
We call it going to heaven. And when mom dies, who gets the mobile home she's lived in since 1986?
Grandbabies.
Her son, the Beverly Hills divorce lawyer. Look at that fine 1980 mobile home there. Nice single wide. It's got a carport on one side, a nice porch on the other, and a for sale by owner sign in the front. In this example, let's assume that a typically refreshed mobile home in this park sells for $10,000 to $25,000. So the attorney's son, he's been trying to sell his inheritance for $15,000, and he can't understand why it doesn't want to sell. Such a nice home. Now, here's one I actually bought for $2,000.
Yeah, that was actually fashionable one time, huh?
It was a pack rat house. And it had some really nice treasures in it, but it's a pack rat house. So can you imagine why they have trouble selling these houses?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he can't figure out why he hasn't sold it yet, but he's sick of trying to sell it and tired of paying space rent of $580 a month, along with the power bill and insurance. You know, if you're a high-end attorney, you're going to keep the electricity on, and you're going to pay that insurance bill and space rent every month. So does he have a problem?
Yeah, he does.
Do you see the opportunity?
Yes, I do.
So you set an appointment with him, and you offer to pay him only $3,000 for this inheritance that he has that he was trying to sell for $15,000. Will he sell it to you for $3,000?
Wait, he was trying to sell it for $15,000?
Yep, been trying for a year.
So, I mean, you think he'll take that much less?
He will, because he's possibly most likely desperate, and he just want to get rid of it.
He might.
Okay.
If you don't offer, can you find out that? Can he say yes if you don't ask?
If I don't try, I'll never know.
That's right. So while never downgrading mom's home, list the costly things you're going to have to do to sell the mobile home. Talk about the clean out, the disposable, how you're going to have to paint it, put in new kitchen cabinets, upgrade the bathroom, fix the AC, put in new drapes. Offer him $3,000, then pause. Breathe for a minute, then add no more space rent payments, no clean out. I'll dispose of everything. In my experience, the hardest part of making this pitch is shutting up for 11 seconds and letting him sweat. Silence is a very controlling technique. In this example, let's assume he accepts our offer, and now we own the trailer. Step 2, estate sale. We put up a big sign, we do some ads on Facebook, and all the neighbors come and buy mom's treasures because they really admired that French provincial tea set that was on the counter, and they sat down and had tea with her when she was living in the park.
Hey, Andy, can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
Now, you said that silence is a very powerful tool. And some of us are very, very uncomfortable with that silence, that that uncomfortable feeling that you get when nobody's talking and you're waiting on somebody to respond. Why is that a tool?
Ask somebody a question, any question, especially if you're negotiating with them. You're trying to buy their home. When was the last time you had the air conditioner serviced? And they're going to answer the question, right? So answer the question, Alvin.
Okay.
Tell me about when is the last time you had the air conditioner serviced on your mobile home?
It's I'm not sure she's ever had it serviced. To be honest, I'm not sure. Maybe, I don't know. It could have probably been about 10 years ago, perhaps. Yeah, about 10 years ago, I think. So. What was there anything else you needed to know? Or?
He had you sweating for literally to show you, and I was crying, laughing over here.
There's a lot of pressure to fill that silence, isn't there?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
You've lived in this home a long time, ma'am. Are there any things that haven't been repaired that you've put off repairing that you should have repaired?
Not really. I mean, everything's works pretty well here. So, everything's good. Well, I mean, there could be a few things that you might want to fix when you take it over, but for me, they work great. So.
Silence make
Okay,
people
I get your point.
Want to talk.
I get your point.
You're talking about a trailer that don't even exist, and you got to answer the question.
Right. Not only that, you make me feel uncomfortable about the trailer that I have that doesn't even exist.
It's a very, very powerful tool, and it's underutilized when people negotiate.
Okay.
So use it. It's a really, really good tool.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So so now we're at the estate sale. Now, is this because of all the junk that was in the trailer?
There's always stuff in mobile homes, especially estate mobile homes.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to either pay to have it hauled to the dump. You're going to have to be patient while Goodwill takes their sweet time to come out and pick it up, and in the meantime you can't be working on your house. So it helps to do a yard sale, do a garage sale on the weekend, and have your schedule picked up for Monday right after your yard sale, and you tell them, look, it's going to be out in the yard. If you want it, come get it Monday morning. And I know that a lot of thrift stores do Monday morning pickup specifically for, we're going to take everything that didn't sell at the yard sale.
Okay.
So getting a little bit of jingle in your pocket's great, and getting the stuff hauled off for free is better than paying somebody to do it.
Okay. Hamburger money is never bad.
That's right. You got to have something to buy the beer for the crew at the end of the day.
Right. Right.
Next step, everything goes. We clean the place out. Take it back to the walls. This is a picture of a missing kitchen. Quite often that makes sense. Not always. Looks like the lowers in this one were rotten. So they left the uppers up. They look pretty good, but the lowers were yanked.
Okay, wait, when you say uppers and lowers, what do you mean by that?
Well, there's upper cabinets here where my mouse is moving.
Okay.
And there used to be lower cabinets down here. The stove obviously was here. There's the hood.
Okay.
So all those lower cabinets have been pulled out. They had a colossal failure of some kind.
Okay. Do they usually come like that, or just
But
it's random?
it depends. I've had to gut 2 or 3 kitchens, but usually they're okay. They just need some paint to fix up.
Okay.
Paint every wall white.
Now, what about those trailers that have wood paneling?
Paint it white.
Just paint over the wood paneling?
Absolutely. And what
Okay.
happens when you paint things white?
They usually look bigger. Is that
Everything gets larger. And you just added extra space. And extra space is extra dollars.
okay?
When her neighbors come for your first open house to walk through Madge's house, they will be amazed how you made it so much larger. Just by taking all the stuff out of it and painting the walls white, it's going to appear a lot larger.
Okay.
Step 5, wall-to-wall wood laminate flooring. We sell a lot of houses to a lot of senior citizens and families. It's a lot easier to clean laminate flooring than it is to clean carpet. And our competition, the other homes in the park that we're selling against, are going to be sold with whatever carpet they happen to have in it. There's a ton of, I just bought one that has red shag carpet circa 1974. It's never been changed.
Mm-hmm.
And would you believe that carpet's worn out?
Oh no, I would never believe that. 74?
And it had a family of 6 living in it.
Tommy, were you born in 74? Probably not. Tommy's door dashing. Okay,
Tommy's picking
anyway.
up or delivering.
Nah, I
Right.
wasn't born in '76. I'm a '90s baby
Okay.
Holy
All right.
cow. Scary.
with '74 mindset and mentality and knowledge.
Right.
He's never seen his mother excited about getting an avocado green set of appliances.
Right. I'm pretty sure Tommy wouldn't be
My mom
too
is so excited
about
right
that.
now to get grandkids a house that's a liability right now.
Okay, step 6, we're going to fix the kitchen cabinets. We're going to install new Formica countertop and a stainless steel sink.
Is that expensive, Andy?
No.
Oh.
You can change the hinges on a cabinet for about $3. It's it's $3 to get you a pair of hinges with screws. And if they're ugly and painted and they don't work right, change them. It's not that big an expense. If the drawers fall out, buy a drawer glide kit and install it. It's not that hard to do. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask you this Formica counter and the stainless steel sink. That sounds expensive.
Well, you can get the preformed Formica countertops for about $100 a section. And on top of that, we work on manufactured homes. Mobile homes have smaller kitchens than traditional houses. And so we can buy the damaged countertops that are available at Home Depot and Lowe's, cut them down to the size we need. And those are like glass. They're really hard to keep unbroken on the floor of the Home Depot.
Uh-huh.
So they expect to do a discount, and they're always willing and able to discount those parts when they have a blemish or a little broken section. You're going to cut off anyhow. So you buy those and you put them in.
Okay.
A lot of these have odd colored kitchen sinks because it was in the 70s, all these wild colors. I was reading a book, How I Turned $1,000 into $1 million on rental real estate. And he was bragging. It was written in the late 50s. He was bragging about how they were eliminating all those awful white fixtures and the white paint on the walls and the ceilings. And they were putting lovely tangerine and pink and blue and green toilets and tubs that matched. And the backsplashes with tiles and the bright colors. And they were painting the ceilings robin egg blue, and the walls were all pink or fuchsia, and that was the in thing there. Those were the years of color.
Uh-huh.
So, but we're not there now. It's 2020. We want space. We want clean, modern, white is what our buyers want to see. So
Okay.
a stainless steel sink is 40, $50. They're not a big expense.
Wow. Okay. All right. I had no idea. So and then let me ask you this question really quick, because this actually applies to something that I'm working on right now. I found a 2 and 2 1,500 square feet in a senior park in Highland.
Okay.
So that's got the whole deal with the old look, the carpeting, the walls, and all that stuff. It looks like it's been cleaned out. But senior parks, are they good places to make investments?
I live in Heaven's Waiting Room, so the vast majority of the mobile homes I do are in senior parks.
Okay.
That's
So
where you get a lot of bargains on those houses.
okay. So you don't really, so it doesn't really matter what mobile home park, just basically as long as the economy is good and you know that there's people with money around, you're good to go.
Well, I like to I think we get into it a little later in the presentation. I didn't preview this. I probably could have.
Okay.
But I don't want to try to sell houses in Jerry Springer land. So,
Okay.
so if it smells like you're driving into somebody's bong,
Hmm.
it's probably not the place you want to try to sell houses to nice people.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
don't buy houses in the ghetto. There's no reason to. There's too many houses you can buy in nice parks.
Okay.
If you're in
Now,
this,
if you live in a ghetto and there are houses in the ghetto and there's opportunities there, what would you recommend for somebody like that to do?
if you're comfortable in the ghetto and you think you can find demand, if you have a corner of the ghetto where you live that's actually a pretty nice part of the ghetto. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, I lived in Mead Valley for quite a few years in a beautiful little section, and we didn't have anybody making a crack in our neighborhood. And if we did, we chased them out.
Okay.
And everybody had guns because they all went hunting when it was hunting season. And we all looked out for each other. It was a nice neighborhood.
Okay.
Uh, so yeah, there are good spots, but if you're living in there, do you want to try to entice people to come buy your house? And is it an easy place to sell houses?
Right. You're gonna have some problems when you're trying to resell a
Right.
place in the ghetto. Now, if you're trying to buy it and rent it out, that might be a whole different conversation. Is that correct?
Well, if your goal as a landlord to have nice people with good steady jobs, then the ghetto's probably not where they want to live. If you're trying to get cash flow and you don't mind busting your hump to get it, the ghetto, there's some good values and things to buy. It's a cheap place to buy, and rents are high because you have to live there because that's where the last place for you to go.
Okay.
I've
Right.
bought rental houses in the ghetto. I own rental houses that are in the ghetto.
Okay. So what you're saying is that you can buy in the ghetto, because I think that's what John does in Dallas, is that in Fort Worth area, that he says that he buys in those areas because everybody needs a place to live, but it's still the process that is taught by David Tilney and a lot of the mentors that you have and that I've been privy to meet, that teach the techniques on how to get the right renter in there, even if you're in the ghetto, right? Because you gotta, as a homeowner, you have to protect your interests. And let's be honest, if you're in an area that's dilapidated in any kind of way, or if there's a lot of drug stuff going on, gang stuff going on, then as a homeowner, you're going to have a hard time being able to get the value out of that home. And that creates a problem later on when you're trying to do a refi, pull some money out of it for the equity, and then use that money to buy another property. So those are things to think about when you're buying in areas like that. But then the reason why we're teaching you guys all this stuff is so that you learn uh, techniques that you can use to take advantage of in your own neighborhoods while you know basically stack cash to be able to buy in other areas outside of that. Basically,
here's the thing: I don't buy and sell mobile homes in the ghetto.
okay,
And just outside of the ghetto is a mobile home park that you can buy, and there are opportunities there, and that's why I like mobiles, is because everyone can buy one tomorrow. They're
right.
out there, and there are nice neighborhoods to buy them in. You don't have to go in the ghetto.
Okay. So price points that would be like you were buying in the ghetto, but it's not the ghetto. It's safe. It's a safe investment. Basically, you secure a note. We'll get into that later. But you secure a note, you know that note you have secured is going to be a safe, secure note that you could turn around and sell to somebody else if you needed to.
Right, right.
Okay.
So because the margins are what they are in mobile homes, you don't have to go someplace nasty.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. It's fair enough. So, back to what I was saying about this mobile home that's in a senior park. No big deal. It's in a senior park. Most of the nicer mobile homes you deal with are in senior parks, family parks. It doesn't really matter, just as long as it's nice, right?
Well, family parks, you need larger units, and they turn very fast.
Okay.
And if you can find enough family units to buy and flip, more power to you. I live in Heaven's Waiting Room. Palm Springs is where old people come to avoid the winter.
Okay.
So most of my units have been in senior communities.
Okay, gotcha. Now let me ask you this question that just popped into my mind, because I have a 2-and-2 that's about 1,500 square feet. Would you ever consider putting another bedroom in there and make it a 3-and-2?
Been there, done that.
Okay, so
I've done it. I just did one.
okay, so basically, if it's gonna get more money in your pocket in the end, it's worth taking the time to look into, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've added beside the house. I've built an addition right beside a mobile home because that was the right thing to do, and I've partitioned off part of a house that had a great room layout for a kitchen, dining, and family, and then they had a living room as well, and it was 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and it really needed to be 3-bedroom, 2-bath because
Okay.
it was in a family community.
Okay. Well, this one's in a senior park, so it may not be as important to put that third bedroom in there. But
And my father-in-law, when he moved into a manufactured home, took down a wall. He wanted it to be 1-bedroom, 1-bath, and he wanted a TV room. So he took a wall out, and the TV room, what was the second bedroom, became TV room, and he didn't have to worry about people coming to stay because he didn't have a second bedroom.
Okay.
So it depends on your market.
Okay.
Some places having only 1 bedroom is in a lot of public space is what you want.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Something to consider then. So, because you see all kinds of stuff out there, but
Sure.
I just want to talk about something that since I had this deal going that I'm looking into. In fact, I'm gonna send a text to the agent and let her know we're still interested in making an offer on that deal. But let's get back into the presentation here that you got going on with step 6.
Okay. So you fix the kitchen cabinets, install a new Formica countertop, stainless sink, big single handle faucet's a great feature in a senior park instead of the little knobs for old arthritic fingers. That's really a nice feature. So you can add those. There's a nicely redone kitchen, a used stove and microwave and washer or dishwasher. There's 2 of mine. Notice on the one that's on the lower right, we didn't redo the counters. It's got that same old wood grain Formica, and all we did was paint it white and put the wood floor in on that one. On the top picture, you'll see that also didn't do the Formica in that one. We did put down some interesting flooring that I got on clearance from Lumber Liquidators, and it was manufactured and printed to look like recycled barn siding. And as I was doing the cleanup on this house, I noticed that there was a muddy boot print on the floor, and I got down with the sponge in my hands and knees, and I was trying to scrub the muddy boot print off of the floor, and I was not getting anywhere with this muddy boot print. And as I was scrubbing, I noticed the identical muddy boot print was 3 panels over and 2 panels down, and came to realize that they had put a muddy boot print in the print for that flooring that I installed in that kitchen. So it always has a muddy boot print. But
well, it's kind of stylish, right?
It was interesting, and it was 10 cents a foot because it had a printing error.
Okay.
About 10% of those had the dots for the printer, the alignment dots that if you've ever seen a master sheet come off of a press, it has alignment dots. It had about 1 sheet in 10 had the alignment dots, but you don't notice it. It's such a busy pattern.
And how do you find this stuff then, Andy?
I go to Lumber Liquidators and I say, I flip mobile homes and I'm a cheap son of a bitch. What's on sale?
You say it just like that?
Just like that.
Okay. All right. So.
And I have that same relationship in Home Depot, Lowe's, all of my local stores that have materials I use. And I will be walking through my local Lowe's and out of the corner of my eye, I'll see some guy waving at me and he'll holler, "Hey, cheap guy." And he'll have something he needs to get off the floor, and he knows that I'm his huckleberry, as they say. He can give me anything. I'll buy it if it goes in a mobile home.
Gotcha. Okay. So
I've gotten a lot of brand new toilets for $50 a piece. All I had to do was have one of my guys figure out how to unglue the lid off of the toilet tank because they'd stuck it down with adhesive caulk because it was a floor sample,
Yeah. Huh.
You can't install them with the lid cocked down. You have to actually scrape the putty off. So.
Okay. So basically, you're to the point now where you can be walking through the store, not even looking for anything, and somebody say, hey, cheap guy, or cheap son of a whatever, and you turn around and they're like, hey man, we got these tiles over here that nobody is gonna buy because they got this defect over here, and so we'll give it to you for 5 cents.
Oh yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
the plumbing guy, you walk in, the plumbing guy goes, "Hey, I got 5 bathtubs that have damage on them, and I got to get them off my floor, and I've got some space in my discount budget this month. Can I get these to you?" And I'm always a taker. I always use them for something.
Now, where do you keep this stuff?
I have 3 10x20 mini storages.
3 10x20 mini storages, and isn't that expensive?
More expensive than I like, quite frankly. But in the calculator class, I teach you how to get them at a discount.
Okay.
I'm actually maybe going to build a garage, a 3-car garage on one of my places just for storage to get out from under that storage bill.
Okay. But you do have kind of a slick technique that you teach in the class that basically he teaches us how to save, what is it, about 25 to 30% on a storage bill?
Yeah, you earn 35 or 42 depending on how you do the math on your investment.
Okay.
So
and it's worthwhile because you're able to get all this stuff at a discount. Sometimes you can't control when it's available, but you got to get it when it is available, and then you turn around and use it as a more inexpensive way to rehab your units, right?
Absolutely.
Because otherwise, what could be the cost of rehabbing some of these units? I mean, compared to what you actually spend.
It could always be about 4 times what I normally spend because I don't spend very much fixing them, quite frankly. My goal is to spend as little as possible when I do a rehab.
Okay. And that's very important to know because it's and I know this firsthand. Obviously, we've talked about my situation that I got into, but it could get, the rehab budget could get out of control really, really quick, especially when you're not following the basically the rules of the game that Andy lays out in the class. Is and
Be
and
cheap.
and and I'm sure I'm not the only student to have had those problems. Is that right, Andy?
I'm absolutely certain that you're not the only person that overspent on rehab.
Okay.
It
So,
happens.
okay, that's good. That makes me feel better, Andy. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's continue on.
All right, so we're going to fix the bathroom. We only want white toilets and bathtubs.
Okay.
So that lovely green that was such a brag back in 1959 needs to find its way out of your shop and to the Habitat store and let them sell it to somebody else who wants to do something retro. We don't want to do something retro.
Okay.
We want a nice, clean, modern, white bathroom. Interesting story on this sink right here. One of my Airbnb clients did a very high-end, modern rehab on their facility.
Mm-hmm.
And after I went to rehang this sink for the second time, I explained to him that somebody was doing the wild thing in the guest bathroom, and that was what was knocking these off the wall. And he really needed to switch it out for something that had legs, because people were just going to keep knocking it off the wall forever. So he bought another kit, a bathroom vanity that had legs, and this one got removed. And of course, I removed it to my warehouse and then put it into this mobile home. And the gentleman that lives there now knows not to climb up on the sink with the girlfriend.
Okay. Well, we would hope so.
Yeah.
Well, you had to get legs to protect them from the leg. Okay, that's a bad joke, but anyway. So, all right. So warning to Airbnb people.
Yeah. None of them fancy European wall hanging vanities.
Right. Doesn't work.
Step 7.5, pretty up the outside. Repair the porches and steps. Make sure the handrails are strong, especially in a senior community. There's a couple of mine. The one down here, this is the first one we did. 10 by 40, 400 square feet with the little add-on screen porch and storage behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one up on the left, that's an interesting unit. I had negotiated with a gentleman who had gone in and thrown his keys on the counter at the property manager's office. Property manager, when that happens, tells him, no, don't do that, call this guy, and handed him my phone number.
Okay.
And we sat down and chatted, and he told me a story, and he couldn't afford to pay space rent on this house anymore because of his situation at work. So he handed me the title to his house. He'd signed it already. And I told him, look, I can't explain free house to my Roth custodian. So my Roth custodian is going to write you a check for $100,000, for $100 to pay you for your mobile home. And that's the full purchase price. And he said, okay, that's fine with me.
Andy, why would somebody give you a mobile home for free?
Well, the space rent under this was $995, and he had a mortgage back in Henderson, and he and the wife had bought this 10 years ago, and it was bought as a vacation home for them to enjoy for vacations. And when they retired, they were going to move into it and live here as this retirement home. Unfortunately, he and his boss had a hayrube, and he said, screw you, I'm going to retire. Well, the wife was not ready to retire. So he was retired, she wasn't. They could not afford a mortgage in Henderson and $995 space rent on the rental house in Cathedral City. So they just wanted relief from paying that rental bill. It had stopped being fun. It had gone from that fun place to go on vacations to, oh, it's that weekend. We got to go every other weekend and get off work on Friday afternoon, get in the car and drive all the way to Cathedral City from Henderson. Get in there very late at night, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Sleep in on Saturday, get up, have a nice breakfast, fix whatever's broken in the house. Sunday, get up, have breakfast, play around to golf, climb in the car and drive back to Henderson. It just did stop being fun. And you can't have them sit empty like that. You either have to pay somebody to check it, or you have to come back at least once a month, sometimes twice a month, to check out your home. So
okay.
They didn't have the money and it wasn't fun. So they sold it to me for $100. I turned around, fixed the bathroom floor in the master bath and cleaned the carpet. And I sold this one for $35,000.
So, okay. So let me get this straight. So you went from basically it was offered to you for free. Your Roth IRA, and we'll get into that later on about why you do your investments out of that. But it's a self-directed Roth IRA, I should mention, not a regular Roth IRA.
That's correct.
And the reason for that is because
the guy at Merrill Lynch who has a Roth IRA plan doesn't make any commission if you go buy a mobile home for $100, so he's not going to let you do it. You have to buy things he gets a commission on. So they all say they have self-directed IRA accounts. They're not all the same. You have to have an IRA custodian who really does self-directed, which means it's your account, invest it anywhere it's legal to invest it, and we're not going to give you any advice.
Okay. And so why should a person actually do a self-directed IRA to put it in real estate investments as opposed to just doing what people normally do, which is to just let somebody else put it in the stock market? Because those people that put it in the stock market are actually experts at handling money and making sure that you have enough money for your retirement. So why should I do the self-directed IRA?
Well, if those experts are doing their job, why is it that the vast majority of people in the United States don't have over $60,000 in their IRA?
That's a fact?
Look it up.
Okay.
90% of the population of the United States of America has less than $60,000 in their retirement account.
So what is that really saying then about these IRAs and these retirement vehicles that people buy into? And this is mainly, let me stress this, that this is mainly speaking toward the middle class. Poor people normally don't have to deal with these types of conversations because working at Walmart, they're not going to give you a retirement account. And I'm not trying to, discount anybody for working at Walmart or whatever type of job you have, because quite frankly, this is for people like you who don't have these types of vehicles. But
it's not the people that are in that category, and whether that's the lower middle class or the lower class people. It's not that they don't need to think about that stuff. It's that they choose not to.
Okay.
Because retirement funds are not discussed at the dinner table when they were raised.
Good point. Very good point.
Middle class, upper middle class people have that conversation with their kids at the dinner table, and you grew up knowing about money. That's a very important thing to do.
Right.
And you make that choice in life to be that person that's going to think about money and talk to your kids and train your kids about wealth and how to grow it and how to keep it.
Okay.
So remember the example we did about the $1,800 a year invested at 15% in tax lien certificates turning into $11 million.
Yes.
If that $1,800 a year was put into your Roth IRA, you wouldn't get any tax deduction on it every year, that $1,800. And when it grew up and it became $11 million plus, and you started spending it, there would be no taxes on that. Now, can you imagine that the taxes on $11 million is ever going to be less than the taxes on $1,800 a year?
No.
No. So you want that to be tax-free money when you retire. And you want to learn how to do these things and learn to grow your retirement account so when you need it, you can have it without giving any of it to Uncle Sam so he can study the mating habits of fruit flies, and keep that money so you can take care of yourself and support your children and build an estate, build wealth for the future.
Okay. And so, so going back to what you were saying before, like, okay, poor people are poor because part of the reason is because we don't have these kind of conversations. And in the middle class, we'll have, financial conversations, but it'll usually be more along the lines of what, we had to pay in taxes, or, the types of stuff that, may talk about stock market stuff, may talk about mutual funds and things like that, but very little conversations about real estate and about actual gains and the type of stuff that basically we talk about when we're around each other at the club. So that being said, why is it that the self-directed IRA person would benefit more from doing stuff in real estate as opposed to handing it over to the guy that does the stock market stuff?
Well, here's the thing. Look, talk to somebody like that and have them take a look at their statement and what the actual growth is after paying all the fees and expenses year over year. Mm-hmm. How much did they actually net out in growth between January 1 of last year and January 1 of this year? Do the math. See what you made. See if you consistently made 15 or 20 or 30%. Most of them are tickled pink to make 2 or 3%, quite frankly.
Right.
And that's chump change for someone who uses my systems.
And then, so if we were to talk to somebody that has one of these IRAs and say, hey, you could be making, do you realize you could be making 30, 20, 30, even sometimes even 40 to 50% on some of these deals? I mean, the average person is not going to believe you, right? Because
which is why the conversation I have with those people isn't about the 30%. It's about the 9%. Because we need to sell half our paper. So to do that, we need somebody who's happy with the 9% that our buyers are paying us. And right now, to go from that 2 or 3% on a mutual fund and have to eat Mylana because it goes up and down and it panics you, to instead go to a nice boring 9% note, that's a pretty sweet deal for most people's retirement account. The fact that it's not enough for you or me that's a whole different conversation. But the vast majority of people we talk to are excited about 9%.
Okay. So let's move on ahead, and so we can get to that point of getting that 9% note.
So let's keep going on our rehab here. Step 8, we're going to add some colorful towels and stage some nice posters. We're going to take some good pictures or have some good photographs taken. Something that shows off features, the nice white toilets, see the bright colors. Mm-hmm. I kind of like them when they clash. This set's matched. I would normally do blue towels and a pink bath mat, something awful like that.
Okay.
Step 10, we're going to go ahead.
I said, I see your artwork there.
Yep. We're going to create an open house flyers. We're going to pass them out to every house in the park. When we invite everyone in the community to our open house, I often buy a mobile home that day because I will knock on somebody's house and I will say, I'm having an open house on Saturday. I would really like it if you come join us. My daughter's going to be baking cookies, and we've got some nice lemonade. I'd like to see the house we did. And if you know somebody who needs a home, if you connect them to me and have them come see me, I will give you $100 if they buy my home. When I do that and walk in the canvas the neighborhood and hand out the open house flyers, typically I will buy a house that day, because I will knock on somebody's door. And so she'll say, oh, Millie next door died, and her son has been trying to sell the house, and every 6 months he'll call and say, Mr. Smith is going to come look at the house. If he comes and knocks on your door, can you come open it up? So I take the key and I open up Millie's house. Well, when that happens, I usually buy Millie's house from the son. So opportunities come to you when you're out promoting your open house. And I have sold houses to people drugged to open houses by neighbors.
Okay.
So on this example, our total investment was $3,000 in purchase, $2,000 in rehab, plus $580 in space rent. We're out of pocket $5,580 on this little deal. Any questions about that? Pretty easy math.
Pretty simple.
So we're going to bake the chocolate chip cookies. We're going to bake them in our clean, fresh kitchen. We're going to mix up a little lemonade for the guests. And remember, good smells sell.
Okay.
We go to the 99 cents only. We buy the peppermint mouthwash that's $1 a bottle. We're going to dump a bottle in every drain in the house. Not the medicine stuff. We want just the peppermint, the nice smelling peppermint stuff. That's the best way to make a house smell really good.
Okay. I'd never thought of that.
And it doesn't cost much. If you have washer and dryer hookups, be sure and do the washer and dryer hookups, because that can always be a stinky place in a house because people let that dry out on a vacant house.
Okay. Gotcha.
You're going to determine the best selling price for your spruced up mobile home. Now we're going to do some more math again. So the first step is we're going to survey similar sized apartments in the area of your mobile home. So we want the same size, the same quality of development. So if we're in a B-class mobile home park, we want to be in a B-class apartment building with an apartment that's the same size and area footprint as our mobile home. If it's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, 400-foot mobile home, I want a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, 400-foot apartment. So match those up.
Now, let me ask you, what do you mean by B? Or, how are you making these comparisons?
Well, I'm not an apartment expert by any means, but they grade apartment complexes as A, B, or C, or D, I guess. And what that grading rates to is the condition of the property, the upgrades, the amenities that are available.
Okay.
So if we're in a really nice high-end community and they've got golf and tennis and activities in the clubhouse, the restaurant's open all the time, that's an A grade community. So you want to compare your mobile home there with an A grade apartment that's in the same neighborhood, same basic amenities. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Equal for equal.
Okay.
So for this example, let's use $1,000 a month.
Gotcha. So
$1,000 minus the space rent of $580 leaves us with $420. Then we subtract $120 pricing edge, and that leaves us with a $300 monthly payment. So you can rent the apartment for $1,000, or you can live in this mobile home and start building equity, and it's only $880 a month.
Okay.
That makes it very easy to sell our product.
Okay, so just to make sure I got this right, okay, you're saying that the $1,000 represents the average rent in that area, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so we want to subtract the space rent in the park because we're trying to come up with the actual number that a person is going to need to pay you when you sell the mobile home to them. Is that correct?
Correct. The
Okay.
monthly payment that we need to offer our house at.
Okay. And so the reason why we do the subtract another 120, that's because you're saying the pricing edge is that you want to be able to tell somebody that they can move into your mobile home and buy it for less than they can actually rent the apartment across the street. Is that correct?
That's it. So when Mr. and Mrs. Smith are doing the tour of your house and you get to discussing pricing and you say, well, the mortgage payment on the home is $300 a month and the space rent is $580. So your monthly housing cost is only $880. I want the one that writes the check for the rent every month to slap the other one on the shoulder and go, wow, that's less than we pay for our apartment today.
Okay.
And then I can say, yeah, and nobody walks on your ceiling, and when the neighbors get frisky, you don't have to listen to the headboard bang on the wall.
Or replace the sink, right?
Yeah, well,
Right. So, okay, so I get it. That's okay, so that's the selling point, and you basically don't have to say anything is really what you're getting at.
yeah, you lay it out for them and tell them what that total payment is between your mortgage payment and your space rent, and they'll figure out that it's cheaper than what they've got today.
Okay. Okay.
So math time. So what is the selling price? Once again, we're going to take out our financial calculator, and we're
Okay.
going to plug in 120 in,
Okay.
9I,
Okay.
$300 payment, and a zero future value. I like to have my mobile home notes run 10 years or less.
Okay.
So if we plug that into the financial calculator, we will get an answer of $23,682.51.
Okay.
Now remember, a typical polished up unit. Okay, I'm back up here. Remember what we thought a typical polished up unit in the community sold for was about 20.
Right.
So we can get an extra 10%. We can't get an extra 100%. So what Lonnie says in his book is we want to at least double our investment. And of course, he rarely fixed anything in a mobile home back then. He just bought them and sold them and didn't touch them. Ones that I never touched, like the one I bought for $100 and sold for $35,000, that's really profitable for me. It's wonderful profit. It's no fun though. Okay. I like taking an ugly, beat up, damaged home and making it nice and livable and making it a nice place for somebody to live. That's what I enjoy doing.
Okay.
And I need to go get some water. So
okay.
This will be a pause.
No problem.
So Lonnie wrote that he wanted to at least double his investment, and he didn't do any repairs. So calculator time again.
Okay.
If we lower our sale price to $18,000, because we only have, if I remember right, 5,500 in this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So 5,580 is what we have in it. So payment of 300, a sale price of 18,000. It's going to be paid off in 80 months or 6.67 years. So okay. What's our ROI? What's our return on that? We spent $5,580. And in return for our 5580, we get $300 payment 80 times. So that works out not 12 or 15% on tax lien certificates. We make 63.47% return on our investment, which is why we want to do these in our Roth instead of out where uncle gets a piece of the action.
Okay. Because that would be a lot of tax liability, basically.
That's a lot of tax liability.
Okay.
Now, if we sell it for the higher price, we get that same payment, but we go 10 years on it, then our return on investment does not change that much. We get 64.39 on that one. Nope. Or 63.47 on this one.
Okay.
That shows that those last 3 years of payments from year 7 to year 10 really don't matter that much to us. Now, the total of payments is going to be bigger, but the ROI, the yield, is not that much improved.
I see what you mean. Okay. So, and to be able to calculate the actual return, the actual dollar return, is just a simple calculation of 300 times 120 or 300 times 80. Is that right?
Well, yeah, but it's not 300 times 8. It's a formula. It's you understand that the calculator does that time value of money. So what that tells you is that in a year, you get back 64.39% of your investment every year.
Okay.
So 300 times 12 is going to be 3,600. And the calculator tells us what that return is. You're getting about 64.39% of your money back every year in growth.
Gotcha. Okay. And that's what the I shows on the financial calculator. It's the interest return on a yearly basis.
Right.
Annual
Either the interest you're charging on a yearly basis or it's the interest you're earning on a yearly basis.
Okay.
One's interest, one's yield.
Okay.
All right. Next thing. So why we use 9%? I don't know how far afield this is going to get, but in California, we're going to skip Dodd-Frank. So we're going to use 9% in California because usury is 10%. So writing your paper at 9 means you never have to worry about violating usury laws. Now it's our decision time. Do we want to make 64.39% on 24,000 or 63.47% on 18,000? And this is time for you to make a choice. There's no right answer here.
Okay. I would rather go for the larger amount.
Okay, but that's going to make it harder to sell.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So I could actually go in at, like, say, advertise it at 20,000 or 21,000 and still be offered a discounted price, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for the sake of this example, so we'll go for the 18 then and sell it quick. Especially if we got into this deal for $5,000, that's still, what is that? 3 times, more than 3 times the money.
Jimmy Napier would have said GE. Good enough.
Okay.
In my mind, it depends on whether I'm going to sell the note or keep the note. If I'm going to sell the note, then I want the higher price because I'm going to get all that cash right now.
Okay.
If I'm going to keep the note, then I want to get my cash back quicker and I want to sell quicker, I'll go for the lower price. Back to Dodd-Frank. We're going to skip Dodd-Frank. That's a whole class. We got some pictures. Here's before and afters.
Now, while we're looking at the pictures, can you explain what you mean by selling the note or keeping the note?
Well, we have to sell about half our paper. About half of the time, I mean, if we spent 10,000 on two mobile homes, on each on two mobile homes, and they both sold for $3,000 down at a $22,000 note, if we borrowed that 22,000 from another investor or sold one of those two notes, then the other one would be ours for free. We'd get all our money back on the first one, and we get to keep the second one with no money invested in it. And you know that gives us an infinite return.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So this is how I found my first deal. Tramview Mobile Home Park is an old development in Cathedral City. It even has a smattering of old, small block houses that are left over from when Patton was training the troops in the 40s to work in the Africa Corps. So I walked into the office and I asked if they had any trailers for sale. The desk clerk went back, pulled some files, and gave me a list of 5 houses they had for sale. The cheapest 2 were $5,000 each, and the next was $7,000. I asked about any private sales, and she suggested I drive the park and look for signs on the homes. So I walked the entire park looking at what was for sale, noting the prices and conditions. I spoke with a few people that lived there who came out and talked to me, and I learned that the cheapest for sale by owner was $9,000. And then they went up to $50,000 from there. So I went back to the park and I offered them $3,000 each for the 2 cheapest they own, and I asked for $60 free rent, or 60 days free rent while I worked on them. They accepted, and I bought 2 trailers for $6,500 total. That's happened every time I've walked into a park office and asked them what's for sale and told them what I do. I've always bought the 2 nastiest trailers they had, and I've gotten a great price, and I've gotten free rent, so I didn't have to pay rent while I was doing my rehab.
Okay. And you know that you can get in and out of there within that amount of time, within that 2 months, because why?
Because they're small and easy. There's no reason to spend more time than that on a small, easy job.
Okay. So if I've got a trailer that's like that's like really, really damaged, I mean, is that something that I should even get into?
Well, if you have the skill set to fix it and you want to take the challenge and they'll give you more time, fine. Or they give you a deal on the price so you can afford it. I've been offered them free from parks just to have somebody go fix them up and make them habitable.
Okay.
I haven't taken all of the free ones.
Okay. And just real quick, Andy, why would a park even do this?
Well, if you own a park, the reason you bought a mobile home park is because you like space rent. If you wanted to fix apartments and fix things up and tenant damage, you'd have been bought an apartment building instead of a mobile home park.
Okay. So a mobile home park is an apartment building without the building. It just collects space rent like a storage facility in a sense. Like
it's more like a parking lot.
Okay. That's appropriate. Okay. So the guys that don't
look what they get for a parking space in downtown LA.
Yeah, it is about as equivalent. So now are you saying that that these guys would do it just because they want to make sure that they can collect the rent for that space, but they can't collect rent for the space if nobody is living in the unit, right?
Right. And it's awful hard to get somebody to come in and buy a nasty, smelly, beat up, rotten unit, right?
Uh-huh.
And they know because I told them that I fix them up, I make them pretty, and I sell them with financing. Well, they know what it takes to qualify in their park, and they know that to buy from a private party in the park, you most likely have to have a big pile of cash. To buy from Andy, all you need is a down payment and the ability to sign your name and make the payments.
Okay. So basically this brings up something else. So you're saying that they will they'll ask you to come to their rescue basically because they know that you know how to work with people is the
Right.
bottom line. Because
I present myself as being a knowledgeable professional.
okay.
And they, because they believe that, they're willing to work with me and give me a good deal on houses and work with me on the rent. And they know that because I finance, instead of one person that's interested in the house, they're going to get to look at 5 or 12 or 20 people that are interested in that house.
Okay.
They get to pick better class of clientele for the park.
Okay. And then also you have this the knowledge that you use as far as a financial calculator to be able to figure out how people can get into the park if they can't make the payment that you may want. Ideally, you can work with them with the calculator using your skills on the calculator to figure out a lower payment to get them in there if they have decent credit and all the other qualifications, right?
I could, but I don't.
Okay.
Because I know before I start marketing that my product is already $100 a month cheaper than the equivalent apartment.
Uh-huh.
And I never want to give myself power. I have people that come to me every time and say, hey, I know you want 10% down or 15% down, but what if I put another $30,000 with that? And my answer is always the same. If you put another $30,000, that counts as prepayment. That's fine. And I will happily talk to the lender on this because I never represent myself as being the lender. And I will ask if they're willing to lower their regular monthly payment because you paid this up front. So
Okay.
that way I don't have the power. And that way they don't think they can beat me up on prices and things because I owe the money. They're buying it subject to my debt.
Okay. So basically when you're out there you're fixing the mobile homes yourself, right? You don't.
Well, I don't. On the ones that belong to my Roth, I don't. I have guys that work on them and get paid.
Okay. And the other ones, you're saying the ones that are in your Roth, but you have ones that are not in your Roth?
I have bread and butter ones, and I'm allowed to work on those. I'm not allowed to work on the ones that belong to the IRA.
Gotcha. Okay. And that's just rules to the IRA and all that stuff that
Yeah,
we don't
the
need to get
IRS.
into. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So, but basically the bottom line is that you solve a problem for the person who owns the park, and then you solve a problem for the people who are looking to move into a park. Sometimes they find mobile homes that they like, but they can't afford it because the financing terms are too tough, or the down payment is too high, or the people may just want cash and they can't get financing for something that's a certain age. Is that correct?
Yeah, right.
Okay. So basically, a guy, why wouldn't a park just go on ahead and just hire a subcontractor or a general contractor to come into the park and fix these things up?
I don't know. Some of them do, and occasionally you'll hit a park where they say, "Oh, we've got our own crew. We don't mess with the investor guys."
Okay, so so if I run into that, should I just stop and just assume that every park in that area is the same way?
No, just assume that one park is that way.
Okay.
Because the park across the street has a whole different owner, could be a completely different property manager, totally different business model.
Okay. All right. Cool. So, okay, cool. So let's continue on, because I just wanted to make sure that we're getting some questions in people may have when they're watching this presentation. So,
right. So we sold the first one for $12,500 after investing a total of $6,000 on purchase and rehab. I borrowed $11,000 from an investor and sold subject to my loan. That's what we talked about, selling half the paper.
okay.
I spent a total of $6,000 on the first polished up home. I sold the trailer for $1,500 down and $250 a month for 55 months. What was my selling price? 55 at 9%, payments of $250, fully amortized, so the future value is zero. Gives me a present value of $11,233 plus $1,500 down payment. So my total income on this was $12,733. So I decided to cash out on this. So now I borrowed $11,000 at the 3-week point. So what's my yield on this deal? Good enough. You invest 6 and you take back out 12.5.
Okay.
In a month.
And I've done this before in the class, and I'll be honest, Andy, this is the part where I always kind of get lost. So can you go over that part again?
Okay. So on day one, let's assume on day one that I spent the whole $6,000 on day one instead of over the month.
Okay. And that's purchase plus rehab, right?
Right.
Okay.
So invested $6,000, borrowed $11,233 from an investor, got a $1,500 down payment, and that adds up to $12,733.
Okay.
I did that all, and let's say we did that in 60 days.
Okay.
So you put that on your financial calculator.
Lost you.
There we go. So let's say it was 2 months. So N is 2. So 2 N. And it was $6,000 out of my pocket. So it's minus. That goes there. Okay. No payments. And we turned that into $12,733 future value. So what was our yield on that transaction?
It would be 100 and 200%.
548%.
Wow.
Or as Jimmy says, good enough.
Okay. So in this scenario, the person that you borrowed the 11,233 from, that is the guy that's actually collecting the payment once you
That's correct.
Sold it, right? But you actually took the down payment, the $1,500 down payment, plus the $11,000 from your buddy,
right?
And now he's just collecting a monthly payment of what I can't remember what the amount was, but basically
it's $250. So he gets $250 times 55 times.
Okay.
He's going to turn his 11,000 and move this here. He's going to turn his 11,233 is going to get turned into $13,750.
Okay. $13,750. So that's like a 20% gain for him.
Well, it's 9 over 5 years.
A 9% gain. Okay. That was way off. Okay. So, okay. And basically that's a good, solid investment for a guy who's looking for basically a higher yield than what your Roth IRA guy is going to get you off of the stock market, and especially considering that the stock market fluctuates, especially in times like this. So it's basically a more solid investment to get into.
It's boring and high. It's high yield and boring.
Boring is always good in a lot of cases.
Investing, boring is good.
All right. But for you being the guy that just came up with $12,733 in your pocket, it's not a bad deal for you at all, right?
It's good enough.
Right. Right. Well, not quite the 12,000, but I mean, but basically about $7,000 gain there for you, having already had the 6,000. Now, if I don't have the 6,000, how would I go about borrowing the $6,000 from somebody, what should I offer that person?
Well, remember we said at the beginning, can you scrounge up $5,000?
Right. And if I can't scrounge up $5,000, what if scrounging up the $5,000 is going to my mom and my uncle and my cousin and gathering that out all up together? What could I offer them?
Isn't that scrounging up?
Yeah, that's scrounging up.
I mean, what do they need? Are they happy with 9? Can you run around and scrounge up the whole 11,233 from a handful of relatives who
Okay.
have money in their IRA account who's not making them 9%?
Okay. I got you. So and basically when it's all said and done, what you're really doing here, Andy, is that you're creating money that didn't previously exist. Is that correct?
Works for me.
So when a person is able to create money that doesn't exist, as opposed to uh, trading money for time, how is that a way that somebody can become wealthy in America?
Well, that is the way everyone becomes wealthy in America is you make your money work for you instead of you work for your money.
Okay.
That's the value of investing. I mean, that's as I'm sleeping at night, my little dollar bill soldiers are out there doing their job and multiplying. So every day I want my money, my dollar bills to go out and do their job and go make more little bits of dollar bills until they grow up to be big dollar bills and they can make me dollar bills.
So they just keep reproducing over and over and over again like rabbits.
You got it.
Okay, so make money like rabbits. So that and to do that, it's basically like you were saying in our previous interview, is you have to take time to sit down and think. That's why one of the books that we recommend is not just The Richest Man in Babylon, but Think and Grow Rich. I mean, I've heard Robert Kiyosaki say plenty of times, it's not called Work Hard and Grow Rich. It's Think and Grow Rich.
Did that book? Did you like that book? Did it work for you?
I did like the book. I actually got the version of Think and Grow Rich that was actually written by a black guy who took a lot of Napoleon Hill's notes and kind of redid it in a way that he told stories about black entrepreneurs. And so for that aspect of it, I did appreciate, because it was inspiring to read about black entrepreneurs and even entrepreneurs that, believe it or not, bought themselves out of slavery. And so with that, in that regard, I did appreciate the book, but I haven't actually read through the regular Think and Grow Rich all the way.
See, I didn't enjoy the book.
Okay.
There are people that love that book, and I just did not. I don't think I got anything out of it.
Okay. What about the Rich Dad Poor Dad? Did you read that?
Oh yeah, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's an inspiring book.
Okay.
It has some good things to it.
So let me ask you this then, Andy. Is this the kind of way that you've always thought, or did you kind of develop this mindset over time?
Oh, I was raised by a CPA, and we talked about money at the dinner table, and we talked about compound interest at the dinner table. And when you said things like, "Oh, it's only," you got sat down and you were trained when you said, it's only $1 for an ice cream, and she would talk about that dollar you spend today and what it'll grow up to if instead of spending it on a ice cream, you send it out to go to his job and grow and make more money for you. I mean, that's why, to me, The Richest Man in Babylon was a much more powerful book for me.
Okay. I see what you're saying. So basically it was taught to you very early on that dollar is really worth a lot more than it is today. It's worth a lot more tomorrow in the years to come than it is today. And if you treat it wisely, it can grow over time. But if you don't treat it wisely, it will never grow, basically.
There's an analogy, and that is that if you decide that you go to the grocery store and you have some corn, and you boil it up and you eat it, and you throw the corn out in the garden, and one stalk of corn just volunteers and grows up in your backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And on that one stalk of corn, you get one good ear of corn.
Okay.
And you could enjoy that one good ear of corn, boil it up and put some butter and salt on it, and you could enjoy that one ear of corn, and that would be the end of the story, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Or you could dry that corn, and in the appropriate season, you could plant that corn, and that one stalk of corn that put off one ear of corn will put off another 300 stalks of corn that probably will all make 2 or 3 ears, because they're actually planted and growing together. And if you only eat 70% of that and you keep 10% of that crop and replant it next year, and you keep doing that, you will soon have more acres and acres of cornfield than you could ever deal with. There's no way you could eat 70% of what your corn crop puts out.
Mm-hmm.
So every time we make that choice to eat the seed corn, that's what gets us.
Right. Okay. And that seed corn, that's that 10% that we're all supposed to save at the end of every month for our income, our personal income.
That's right. You
Okay.
got your money to save and your money to invest.
Okay. And I know,
you need both of them. That 70, 10, 10, 10.
Okay. And I know it's hard for some people to conceive that especially when you come from a family that doesn't discuss money. In a lot of families, it's kind of that taboo to have that discussion. But a lot of the math that we use, I don't know if people realize this, but a lot of the math that's employed in the investment of money is everything that you learned up until the 5th grade. All it is just simple addition and subtracting and then dividing and multiplying, and it's really nothing more complicated than that. Is that how you understand it, Andy?
Yeah. You just have to make proper choices.
Okay, right. Now, so if we can continue on with the rest of it, I don't want to.
Let's see where this goes from here.
Okay.
Okay. So now, if I was to run the note out for 55 months, if I, instead of selling to borrow the money and cashing out, what's my yield? So on the calculator, we've got 55 months, 5,250 minus the $1,000 down payment, because I assigned 500 in closing costs.
Mm-hmm.
Means our total investment out of pocket is $4,250. The payments are $250 each. I get 55 of them. And if I do the math, I find out that my return on my investment is 67%.
Okay, so let's just go over that again real quick. So instead of selling the note to the friend for the 11,000 plus, you turn around and do what now? You actually sell.
Let them send me that check every month for 55 months.
Okay, the $250.
Yep.
Okay.
And doing that, I end up making 67% cash on cash return.
Okay, and this is after you took it down. Where'd the $1,000 come from?
Had a $1,500 down payment.
Okay.
Minus 500 closing cost.
Okay.
Just because I hate those shows on TV.
Okay. So
$1,000.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So we are just calculating just the amount that you got after you took that down payment of $1,500, covered the closing costs, and then with the remaining balance of the money that you spent, have now transferred that over to the person that's buying the mobile home, who's now paying you the $250 a month, and that's going to yield 67% after 55 months.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. I
Again,
didn't transfer the money to him. I transferred the use of the house to him, and that use of that house cost me $4,250.
okay. His use of the house cost you $4,250, but you are now making 67% off of a $6,000
investment.
Okay, a $4,250 investment. Okay. All right. So that's and I want to stress how important it is, again, to understand what just happened by learning how to use a financial calculator. There's several places in Southern California that will teach the financial calculator. There's one person in particular who's really known for teaching that class, and that's Bill Tan. But I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Andy. The word on the street from me and a lot of other people is that you can go to Andy's class and take that crash course on the first day and learn enough to get you going on the financial calculator to be able to make enough difference in how you approach these deals. Were you aware that this was a word on the street about you, Andy?
I hear that's the rumor, although I will tell you I think Bill's a better calculator instructor than I am. He's got about 20 years on me.
Okay, well, that's neither here nor there, because I actually haven't taken Bill's class yet, and Thomas has told me plenty of times I need to get into that class, and I know you've told me before. So I will be taking your class, Bill, soon, very, very soon. So
good class.
So yeah, and everybody attests to the fact that it is a great class. So I'm looking forward to it. So let's continue on.
All right. Now, a sweet thing about this, I invested $5,250 in this whole thing, right?
Uh-huh.
Notice that I can make that whole $5,250 out of my 1 year $6,000 Roth contribution, which means that I can earn 67% in my retirement account tax-free.
Okay. I hope everybody with a Roth IRA heard that.
Hope everybody with any IRA heard that, and start looking at, if you have a traditional IRA because it saved you taxes on $5,000, $6,000 when you did it, and you can grow it at 67%, probably would be wise to pay the taxes on it today, take that tax hit, and then invest it in something like a mobile home flip and make 67%.
Have you ever met anybody that made 67% in the stock market in 1 year?
I've met people that made 67% in the stock market in 1 week. Of course, they gave it all back, but it happens, but not consistently.
Well, I actually used to day trade stock, and I can tell you, if I made 67% in a week, I probably didn't get much sleep that week, and I probably would have been going to see my heart doctor at the end of the week too. So that's why I got into real estate.
I'm afraid my niche is boring for that. Not too much excitement in mobile homes.
Okay, so anyway, so let's go on ahead then. So we are looking at tax-free investing for doing a self-directed Roth IRA.
If my Roth sells the note for its face value, like we talked about, and if my Roth can do 4 of these little deals in a year, and if I just keep stepping up my game and to do $20,000 purchase price trailers, what if my Roth buys ready to sell mobile homes for cash cheap, doubles the purchase price to determine the sale price, and let's see, and what if I can do a pretty mobile home deals in under 60 days? That's buy it, polish it a little bit, get it sold in 60 days, sell the note. And what if I can reinvest 100% of the sale price of those notes? Day one, we start with $5,000. Day 0. Day 60, it grows to 10. By the end of the year, our $5,000 Roth contribution has grown to $320,000 tax-free. Is there any reason you can't do that?
There is absolutely no reason why I shouldn't be doing that.
That's true.
So, and this is actually something doable. This is tangible.
It is, except somewhere around 6 months, about the 180 point. It's easy to buy a $5,000 unit and sell it in 2 months to turn 10, and then do a 10 to 20, and then do a 20 to 40. But when you get up to the 80, you got to do about 4 trailers there. Okay. So you start slowing down a little in the top end. But I mean, it's mathematically it works. Okay.
So the one that I'm looking at now, it's looking like in that area for the top end, you can get about 90,000.
90?
Yeah, 90.
Sweet. And what'd you put in?
Well, they're asking 45. So I'm actually going to put in an offer of around 25, 30.
Okay.
So I'm actually going to put in an offer of around 20, that truth be told, and see if these are the kind of people that know how to bargain. Sometimes, and maybe you could speak to this, sometimes you put in these offers and they don't respond because it's such a low ball offer. What should you do in that case?
See, I don't do a lot of offers through agents.
Okay.
I like to get kneecap to kneecap with who I'm buying houses from.
And why is that?
Well, if someone says, no, I can't take your offer, and they laugh about it, is that a different no than if they say, no, I can't take your offer, and they cry about it?
Oh, that's much different.
And can you tell the difference between those two answers shooting written offers back and forth to a real estate agent?
No. Have no control at all.
And if you are face to face and they laugh, do you know what you have to do to overcome their objection?
Yeah.
You have to explain why it's a reasonable offer and why they haven't been able to sell it before.
Okay.
If they answer and they cry, then you need to find out why they're crying.
Okay.
And solve their problem.
Okay. And that's basically going back to what you said the other day. That's really what we're doing here in the first place, right? It's solving a problem.
Always solving a problem. That's why my company is Problems into Profits.
Oh, okay. I actually didn't even know that, Andy.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it's called.
Problems into Profits. That has a great ring to it. So that's not like mine. But anyways. So that's why it's important to be able to go and talk to somebody and spend time asking the questions and being silent and letting them talk and all that stuff, because you're just trying to extract as much information as you can, not necessarily to take advantage of them, but basically you don't know how you're going to help them if they don't tell you, right?
If you're not aware of the problem, you can't solve it.
Right. And do most people just, as soon as they meet you, do they immediately just start telling you every problem that they have?
No.
Well, why not?
Well, see, because we're going to talk for 90 minutes before we talk about their house.
Why?
I can easily spend an hour and a half talking about nothing, because before I start, let's take a step back.
Okay.
You've been approached by a panhandler at a gas station.
All the time. I live in San Bernardino County.
And you've been approached by the guy that's got no teeth, weighs about 95 pounds, has wearing rags, and you know what he's going to spend the money on. Does he get your money?
No, he doesn't. In fact, him and his brother, and sometimes his nephew too. So
Now, some guy who's well dressed and approaches you and he's embarrassed to ask because somebody stole his wallet and he needs to get $20 worth of gas to get his kids to the ex-wife or whatever the hell it is he's got to accomplish. Are you likely to give that person you can relate to the $20 so he can get his kids to the ex-wife?
absolutely. I've been in this situation plenty enough times myself.
And why is that?
Because it's life circumstances, and I can relate to that person's problem.
There it is. You can relate to him. So before I start negotiating to buy somebody's house, I want to have something that we can relate to each other about. We could have the same heritage. We could have grown up in the same community. We could have played each other's high school football teams in high school. There will be something that we have in common. And I'm going to take as long as it takes to find something that I can really, really tie myself to that person. And I want to make them want to adopt me before we start negotiating.
Okay.
Do you see how much extra power that gives me in the negotiation?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you're basically, you're not trying to rush through anything. You're not trying to hurry up and get to the next deal. And you're not trying to rush people into something that, like, you're trying to trick them into something that you want them to hurry up and sign before they figure out that there's a bunch of fine print that they didn't pay attention to.
I don't do fine print. You know who writes my contracts? It's not me. The other party always writes the contract.
And why is that?
Well, that's another whole class.
Okay.
But I'll negotiate a deal, agree to a price, agree to terms, reach across the table, shake hands, and say, we've got a binding contract. Then I hand him a notebook and a pen, and I say, do you mind just jotting down a memo, a quick memo about what it is we've agreed to? Because, you know, I don't want any misconceptions, and I know I'm honorable, and I believe you're an honorable person. You're going to do what you said you're going to do. But just so we don't misremember anything, just could I get you to just jot everything down? And
now, what if the guy
never say no?
Okay, because I actually did, and maybe I didn't approach have the question, didn't pose the question the correct way, but I said, hey, you know, and now that I think about it, when I told him go ahead and write down what we had discussed, he didn't know what to write, so it was basically clear to me that he really didn't understand what we were talking about.
Because you didn't have a contract, did you?
No, I didn't.
And you were heading for a major collision some point in the future because you did not take the time to explain to him he didn't know exactly what he was doing.
Okay.
So by the time we shake hands, we know exactly what we're doing.
Okay.
And if we have to go together and he writes and I dictate, we do it that way.
Okay.
But I want to make sure he knows what he agreed to. And I want to make sure he agrees to what he said. I thought and what he thinks are the same thing.
Okay. And then that obviously, if he ever tries to turn around and say Andy took advantage of me, it's the contract in his writing, right?
He wrote it. So I didn't slip. There's nothing I slipped into that contract.
Okay. Do you like going to court, Andy?
I do not like being in front of the man in the black dress.
So is it safe to say that the documents that you construct to execute these deals, they are constructed in a way that will keep you from having to visit a man in a black dress. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do everything I can to avoid that place. Do
Okay.
you remember the movie Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome?
I do very well.
And he broke the deal, so he
Yeah.
had to face the wheel, right? Bust
Break
the
the
deal,
deal,
face
you
the
face
wheel.
the wheel. Yeah.
Right. I think that is the best analogy for the legal system in this country.
Okay.
You get in front of that room with the man in the black dress, and you both say your piece, and you have no idea what he's going to decide. It has nothing to do with logic or fairness or common sense. It has to do with spinning that stupid wheel and ending up riding out on a half-dead horse, chasing a little bottle of water with a Mardi Gras head on. I mean, that's you have no idea what's going to come out of court.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be in court.
Yeah, I'll second that. I'm a divorcee, so you can without having to get too deep into that, you can tell I don't want to go back to court. So so anyway, so this so back to your diagram here. So basically this is what we're looking at. Like these are actual tangible doable type of activities that a person who might be out of work right now because of COVID, or somebody who's young and graduated from high school and trying to figure out what's the next move in life. If you got a job at Taco Bell or McDonald's and you're trying to figure out how you're going to come up and get yours in America, this is why this is the activity for you, because you can take the Taco Bell money, the McDonald's money, save up whatever you can, go to that aunt or that uncle that always believed in you. After you find one of these deals, don't go to them when you got the deal and you need to hurry up and get the money. Go to go to them beforehand, talk to them about what you're doing, and then go out and find that deal. And don't mess around either, because the longer you take, they'll start not believing that you're going to do what you said. So let's proceed on, Andy. I could talk forever.
Well, here's that one that my Roth bought for $100. On the side it says I sold it for $30. I must be right. Did it a long time ago.
Okay.
So $100 into $30,000 in 90 days is definitely good enough.
90 days, $30,000.
Yep.
Out of thin air.
Well, yeah, except for the $100 and some flooring.
Except for the $100. Yeah. That is
that's not the end of my deck. How about that?
Oh, so it's saying questions now, but I've been asking questions throughout the thing, so I think I disqualified myself for the questions at the end. So giving and thank you, Andy, for going through that presentation. I really appreciate it.
Happy to do it.
Just the one thing that I do want to stress and can't stress enough is to take Andy's advice. Get that book by Jimmy Napier. It's an easy read. And Invest in Debt by Jimmy Napier. He was talking about the book you were actually talking about at the beginning was the Lonnie Scruggs book, which is Dead Center right there. So, and what's the name of that book again?
Deals on Wheels. He did 2 or 3 books. They're all good.
Okay. All right, cool. So, and then there's your contact information there. Contact anybody that's watching this right now. Go to Andy's, type in Andy's email address in your email right now, and send him an email and ask him to sign you up for the weekly What If. He will email you 3 questions every week that will challenge your mind, and you'll have to use the financial calculator to be able to solve the problems of the questions that he's asking. And it's a really good way to get you to think. This is all about thinking. Getting rich in America is not about It's not about how hard you work. It's not about how much sweat you put into your job, day in and day out. It's about how much time you put into educating yourself on how finances work. And it's about thinking and figuring things out, figuring out deal structures, figuring out how much money you actually need to make to be able to have that 10% that you can put away every month and live comfortably. You know what you like. I know what I like. So this is really about just taking the time to start thinking about your situation, thinking about where you are, thinking about where you want to go, and definitely start thinking about money and how money works. Because like we've been talking about, money is not a real thing. It's something that can be created. And Andy just got done breaking down how he creates money every single day of his life. He's asleep and his money is creating money for him, and you can do this too. So Andy, I want to thank you a lot for doing this.
Yeah, happy
If
to do it, Alvin.
we can maybe go for, I think we were talking about at before we started recording, we were talking about maybe that there might be a part 4 and a part 5. And so I'm sure I'll get you in here at some point in the future to talk about some more stuff that people would know to be able to make things happen for themselves in their lives, because our economy is set up right now in a way that uh, the dollar is just going to keep on going lower and lower in value. And the reason why it gets lower and lower in value is because more and more dollars are being created, and they're being created without any I guess the best way of saying it is basically without any type of a lasso on it, because it's not tied to anything real. Money used to be tied to gold, and since it's not held to gold, uh, people can just create money in any sort of way that they can think of these days. And unless you're in the game thinking of ways to create money yourself, then you're always going to be on the losing end of the battle. Robert Kiyosaki just came out with a book a few months ago called Fake, which is about that very same subject about fake money in our system. So, Andy, I want to leave it for you to have the last word on this, and if you wouldn't mind, we go back to our normal screen. Um,
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. There we go.
all right,
So, last word. Go take action. Don't be an overeducated, non-acting idiot. There's too many of those out there. There's too many people that are spending money on real estate education and not taking action. If you decide you want to learn mobile homes, go buy Lonnie's book. Sign up for my class. Take the class. Take action. Go do a deal. If you break even, if you lose a couple of $1,000s on your first deal, that's pretty cheap education in the scheme of things. Don't go spend $50,000 for a crazy overpriced mentoring program. They're out there. They're not necessary. There's good education available. Join your local RIA. And glad you took the time to listen to me. Have a good
cool.
day.
Thank you, Andy, very much. Andy Teasley, everybody, the Wizard of Wobbly Boxes. Thank you for being on the show, on the cast here. And like I said, I'm always glad to have met you, Andy, and to be considered one of your friends, and that I have you as a mentor in the club. There's a lot of people that I talk to in the club all the time, and um, the conversation is always including your name because of the influence that you have over a lot of us who've taken the class, and people who haven't even taken the class, to be honest with you. um, your class is the least expensive of all the classes that I've taken, but yet it's the most effective of the classes that I've taken, because it starts at the with the basic principles of the financial calculator and the creative financing subject, and then before you start sending people off to the Peter Fortunato way of thinking, you have to get a solid foundation, and Andy provides that solid foundation. The class, you mind if I say how much the class is, Andy?
Not a bit.
Okay. The class is $495. You can pay for it through PayPal. He'll take care of you. All you got to do is email him at that same email address. The class is usually held in Palm Desert.
Well,
He's going to be doing.
It's usually held about every 8 to 12 weeks, wherever I can find a room that's not in a hotel that's affordable. The next
to save you money. Save you money, yes.
That's certainly important. If I had a more expensive room, I'd have to charge more.
Right.
So if anybody would like to have me in your community, certainly contact me. I need a classroom that's good for about 30 people. I like to keep my class around 20 and have some space. And the next one is going to be 2 weeks after the incarceration ends in San Diego.
All right, cool. And again, Andy doesn't need your money. Andy has plenty of money. Andy is going to go out and start looking at Ferraris, hopefully for me, as soon as this is over. So he doesn't need your money. People charge this money because, for one, they want to make sure that you value the information. Two, because the expenses have to be taken care of for the food and the room and all that stuff. And the third thing is that, look, man, people don't work for free. The guy's got to make a living if he's not taking the time to instruct us all and share his knowledge, and also provide, quite frankly, he's providing the paperwork that you need to do the deals with. So you can only imagine how many hundreds, if not thousands of dollars I've saved in legal fees because I don't have to go out and have a lawyer draft my contract. I don't have to have a lawyer draft my trust documents, which is a whole nother thing that we got to get into. Because trusts are how rich people stay rich and don't let you know that they're rich. You can never sue a rich guy, period. A rich guy that knows what he's doing, that is. Now, you might be able to sue one of those guys that's earning money and is rich because he's got earned income. But, okay, I'm not going to keep on talking. But anyway, so this is why Andy has to charge. So we're 3 hours. Shoot, man, we might be making that. This might actually be the part 4.
Part 4 and 5.
So so thank you again, Andy. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, Alvin. Have a good night.
All right.
Take care, Andy.